Courtney Young here at Lake Brentwood High School. You are watching EMP.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Vinyl Crusader. You're watching EMP, and I'm here with
Courtney Young.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time out, man, to partake in this interview with me. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. So for those who do know me, you know that I went to Oak Ridge High School, and this is my graduating classmate here. I've known Courtney ever since I believe 9th grade, 1993.
Yes, sir.
And he's been doing good things ever since high school. So just want to touch on some topics and get his perspective of it. All right. So just tell me what you've been up to since high school.
Man, since high school, went off to college, had an opportunity to go play a little college football up north, a small school in Iowa, and then had a chance to transfer to come back a little closer to home to the University of Florida, graduated from the UF, and then from there, I thought I wanted to be a teacher at that time. Did that for about a year in Orange County, and then after that, I decided that I needed to get a little further education and went off to Virginia, to a school called Virginia Union to get a master's degree. And then from there, did about 3.5, almost 4 years in the VA, and then came home, kind of put my niche down and working for a couple private colleges, and then went into insurance. And then after the death of my mother and my grandmother, all within a 3-month span, took about a year away from the work world, and then came back and then decided that teaching, being able to give back was my true inspiration and my true passion for life.
So just briefly tell me how important education. I know education is important for everybody, but just kind of touch on how education is such important for young black men and women.
Well, I mean, I can give you the cliche. I can give you the education is the vehicle to the future and all of those things. But the truth of the matter is, without education, man, we truly will perish. Our young men, our young women, in today's society, in today's market, the education, man, it's vital. It's everything. It's their lifeline. It connects them with the past, the present, the future. It connects them with technology. It connects them with their history. Obviously, we see all of the social injustice taking place, all of the Black Lives Matter, all of the things that's taking place in world events. And if they are not current and be able to process it and comprehend it, and able to take assessments on those things and be able to measure their value, then they're lost without education.
So you kind of answered my question on when you were explaining. So I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. So what do you love? Why did you become a teacher?
I think the most important thing, I sat back, I evaluated my own life. I looked at elementary, went to Sattler Elementary, middle school, went to West Ridge and Carver, high school, went to Oak Ridge, went to Upper Iowa University, went to the University of Florida. It wasn't until I got to Virginia Union in grad school at the age of 25, 24 years old that I had my first black male teacher. And I look back over my life, I chronologically looked at everything, and I said, man, all of my black male instructors were either PE coaches or they were football coaches, but my 4 main core subjects, math, English, reading, science, there was not a black male. And I began to ask myself, like, what can I do to be different? And I looked at the fact that I had 2 sons growing up, and I wanted, not just from a football coach and, dealing with youth football and doing work into the community, but I wanted to be able to change, the paradigm of when some kid is able to sit back and think about, man, I may not have had a black male teacher in elementary or junior high, middle school, but when I got to high school, I had one of the coolest, one of the most demanding, challenging black male teachers, and that dude was Mr. Young. And I want to be able to, to change the story and the narrative for the next generation coming up.
Now, you mentioned the 4 core subjects, and briefly talking to you, you said that you're the only black science teacher in the county. Mm-hmm. Just kind of touch on that a little bit on How does that make you feel? Should it be? Does it make you sad that it should be more black? You know, just touch on that a little bit for me.
Well, like I said, as of what I still know, I mean, something made a change, but for the last 2 years, from what I've been told, I've been the only black male science teacher here in Seminole County. I look at it, kind of a couple different ways. For the fact that, one, I understand that many of us as black educators, black males, a lot of times we disqualify ourselves based off of our record. Some of us have criminal records that eliminate us. Some of us just don't have the passion or and the patience to be a teacher. But for me, being the only black male science teacher in the county, I look at it as a privilege. I look at it as, God has blessed me with this opportunity to give me this platform to not only teach, but to also represent, this all black males and the other black male educators that are out there. And I love it. I love every moment of it. I love walking into a meeting at the county, and when I walk into the room as my co-workers say, my ego and my pride, they walk before me. And so when I walk into the room and someone say, hey, are you looking for the health department? Are you looking for the PE? No, I'm here for the science department. And to being able to represent, when I sit at the table, I'm sitting at the table as equal with my colleagues and my counterparts.
Nice. So what have you learned from your students since you became a teacher?
The most important thing I think I've learned from my students is that education and teaching, it changes by the minute. And what I mean by that is because there are some days where we can relate the contents to real life situations. And then there's other times where, I got a lesson planned for that day and somebody going through something, and man, we go totally off script to deal with the issue at hand. And so then I look at it from that angle. But my students, they challenge me to be able to come to the table to be more creative. Most of our kids, they sit 7.5 hours in the classroom. They listen to 7 teachers on the high school level talk, lecture, do a PowerPoint. To me, that's not real education. That's not learning for them. So what I try to do, I just try to be creative. I try to be spontaneous. Some days we have class in the classroom. Some days that my kids say, Mr. Young, we need to go outside to learn. We go outside to learn. Some days we walk to the track or the football field. We go out into the field so that they can see education, because it's one thing to just read it. It's another thing to experience it. And that's what I learn from my students the most.
Well said. So, why did you? I'm gonna ask you two-part question. Tell me, what do you love so much about this city, Orlando? Why do you love the city of Orlando, and why did you decide to come back home to teach?
The city, man, we call it the city of beautiful. What Orlando is, got its name for. The city is home. It's family. It's my own narrative. You think about other cities may have better opportunities in terms of financial packages, but when you're able to go and experience, on one hand, you may ride 5 blocks and be in the tourism section of the city. On the next side of it is you may be, in Winter Park. You may be on the east side or the west side. All depends. But what I love the most about the city, man, it's family for me. It's family. It's my friends. It's all of my childhood memories, the good, the bad, the indifference. And I love my city. It's where I'm from. The 407, as we say, man, we rep it hard. But to be able to come back home, to know that in my neighborhood, I come from where, single parent home, mother and grandmother, and to be able to know that on my street I grew up, there was 13 boys. And out of those 13 boys, that's right now, it's only 2 of us that's alive and not in prison. And so for me, when I come home, I think about being part of a special group, understanding that, the other 11, they didn't make it. Choices, decisions, and we all had the same opportunity to some degree, but I think it's just special being home and being able to help change those numbers. So, it's 2 of us versus the 11. Hopefully, when the next generation come along, that it can be flipped around. It'll be the 11 that's coming back home that's doing well versus the 2, that maybe they made some bad decisions.
So, you just made a good point. When we were in high school, we had, we kind of knew when we were going through high school, what guys were going to go towards the wrong path, and what people, what guys or women were going to, not grow up to be millionaires, but, be, lead a law-abiding, good life. And like you said, we all had choices. We were all friends with good guys. We had friends that were, so quote unquote thugs. Mm-hmm. What made you decide the thug way is not the way I'm going to go? I'm going to get my education. I'm going to do something with my life.
2 things, man. Honestly, I have an older brother, 5 years older. Grew up in the same household, same mom, same opportunities. My brother, for me, I sat back, I watched how he moved, and he wasted his opportunities. And I told myself, 1, I don't ever want to be like this dude here. Love my brother, but I just didn't want to move how he moved. And then 2, I had a mom. God bless the dead, but I thought she was the craziest black mama in this whole city. She used to always tell me, I played football, ran track in high school, but none of that mattered at those grades. And outside of those 2 things there, and I tell people all the time, there's one word in the whole diction that is vital, especially for young black males and young black females. It's called the word exposure. My parents gave me exposure early. They allowed for me to go out to Las Vegas with my grandfather, spend summers out there. They allowed me to go to LA. They allowed for me to travel. And what I realized was that my worldview was bigger than Orlando. The world was bigger. It wasn't, as we once believed that the world was flat. It was actually round. And I had a chance to see, folks who were making moves at an early age. And I started identifying myself, and I think for most of us, we grew up in a generation with the Cosbys and, mm-hmm. In a different world. And we saw that on TV, but many of us didn't know how to become the Cosby, and we didn't know how to get to Hillman and how to get into that different world. So for me, exposure was being able to now see it in live action, and that to me, that was important for me. And to me, I think that separated myself from my brother. That separated me and the other dude, Brian, from the other 11, is that we had exposure. And exposure didn't cost a whole lot of things. It's just the fact that I'm gonna put you on a plane, I'm gonna let you go visit another side of the United States, and that was perfect for me.
Okay. So we're talking about while we're on the subject of parents. You have 2 sons, correct? And what are their names?
My oldest, my 15-year-old CJ, and my 6-year-old is Jordan.
Okay. Just tell me, describe your relationships with your sons.
Well, I got a very unique situation. Both of my boys have the same mother. Young lady I dated my senior year in high school. My oldest, I have full custody of him. He lives with me every single day for the last 10 years since he's been 5. Then, time went on, we tried to make it work, and 9 years later, we ended up having another son, which lives with, their mom. My oldest, he looks like me, but he has his mother personality. So I see a lot of he's gonna do it his way, and he's gonna figure it out. We're at this stage now, in this development stage of, he's a teenager, he's a young man, he's getting into the whole dating thing. So what I try to do, I realize that me fussing, me cussing, that don't work. I have to talk to him like a young man. And what I try to tell him all the time, just look at me as you 21 years into the future, coming back to tell you how to avoid making certain mistakes. That's all my job as a parent is right now. It's just that I went 21 years in the future, and I've come back now to tell you, CJ, this is how you don't do this. It's almost like that. What's the movie Back to the Future, where old man comes back and get the young Biff the little magazine and say, bet on these games, son. I'm giving you the playbook. I'm telling you this is how you need to bet. And so I think he's starting to really understand and see where I'm trying to guide him. And I tell him all the time, I trust him. I try to give him as much exposure. I try to let him hang out with his friends. And then, I just try to let him understand I'm here just to help manage where you at right now. My youngest, man, he's a sweet kid, man, sweet boy. Just love. I mean, he's a kid's kid. He's still playing with Legos, and he's not a video game kid. He don't want to do anything. He just want to play with his Legos, want to be a boy, want to play in the dirt, jump on trees and stuff like that. So our relationship is a whole lot simpler than compared to the oldest. But, 2 sons, 9 years apart. But, man, that's what you expect, 2 different types of personalities.
Nice. That's a good analogy to the Back to the Future thing. I never heard that before.
Yeah.
Another question I want to ask you, what are the challenges, raising 2 young black men, especially out here, with the crime, Orlando, can at times be a very violent city.
Correct.
I mean, I haven't been home in a long time, but I know, especially in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, Orlando was up there, in crime. You got the things, with the cops, the Black Lives Matter thing. So, what do you tell your sons every time, especially your oldest one, when he leaves the house and you're not with them?
Man, I think that's the number one challenge of all parenting now, especially in the black community, is being able to, because you want your sons, you want your daughters to be able to go out, have a good time, because they're young people. You want them to experience life, but you also, on the inside of you, kind of cringe that when they're out, that if you get a phone call from them or one of their friends that they're with, that something bad has automatically happened. It's a very scary thing, just as a parent. The most important thing I try to tell my oldest is keep your head on the swivel, son. Keep your head on the swivel. Always know your surroundings. If you get stopped by the cops, it's always yes sir, no sir. The biggest thing I try to teach them is de-escalate the situation. Don't escalate the situation. Make sure you're in a well-lit area. I mean, we don't see now, even when people are recording things, that police can still do acts of violence and stuff of that nature like that. But this, as a parent, man, it's challenging, and just trying to find the fine balance of how often you let your child go somewhere, where they go, who they go with. I think, just like in old school training, growing up, raising kids, we knew where our kids, our parents knew where we were going. They knew our friends, they knew their parents. So I still think, like, what some of the things that we've lacked in our community is that we have stopped developing relationships with our kids and their friends and their families. We got to go back to developing relationships with them, so we know that all of our kids are safe. But more than anything, that we got to teach our young men how to just keep peace among themselves, have respect for the law, and try to just put themselves in the right position, because even if you're in the right position, something still can bad happen. So it's a challenge.
So what do you love most about parenthood, being a dad?
Man, it's like teaching. It's I think the most important thing outside of the love, and it's that moment when you have instilled something in your child, or you were taught a lesson, and you go from that puzzle look to that aha, I got it now. Or for me, the greatest joy is when one of my sons come and say, Daddy, I understand what you were trying to tell me now. I think as a father, it don't get no better than that. For me, being able to know that, I realize now as a parent, it's like planting a seed. You plant your seeds today, you got to keep watering it. You got to pull up the weeds. eventually, you know what I'm saying, you get a fruit, you yield a fruit from your labor. But, you know, and I realize it just takes patience, man. But more than anything, when they get that aha moment, that's when I know I've done my job well as a parent.
Okay, so last question. So we're here at
Lake Brantley High School.
Lake Brantley High School, and you're a football coach, right?
Correct.
And I didn't hear about this high school the whole time. You know, I grew up in Orlando, Florida. I never heard this high school until today when we were texting. You told me Lake Brantley. I mentioned it to my brother, and he talked to me about the football program that is one of the top in Orlando, Florida. Mm-hmm. Just, you know, you're a coach here. Just, you know, talk to me. You know, sell your program, man. Sell your program.
Man, Lake Brantley for the last 20 years, Class AA has been under the leadership of Coach George Clayton. As of Friday night, or whenever he makes it official, Coach Clayton has to retire due to, you know, state rules. But over the 20 years of him being at the helm, Lake Brantley has been the most consistent high school in the area in terms of wins versus losses, playoff appearances. 2006, I believe, they went all the way to the finals of state. This year's team had the same potential of being a state champion. We lost our starting quarterback the week before, and we went to Jacksonville on Friday night, played against a very quality opponent, Mandarin, and we lost up there. So now we have I think we're returning 9 out of 11 on defense, and I think about 6 on offense. So we're pretty stacked for next year. Obviously, there's going to be a new head coach, so some have asked and considered, well, I put my name in the hat. Definitely would, you know, take a look at the opportunity. But the school is supported by a great principal, great athletic director. When you look into the NFL, I believe the young man plays for the Atlanta Falcons, Chris DeMarco. We currently have about 20 kids in college right now. And then I got a group that I'm working with of seniors that I'm getting ready to hopefully on signing day in February. Hopefully that group of seniors, I'm going to make sure that they go to somebody's college come August of next year. So great program. You know, we run a triple offense, very similar to Georgia Tech. I think we should probably run a tad bit better than Georgia Tech. We got the skilled kids, and I got a 15-year-old son that looks promising at quarterback for next year. So we'll see how that goes as well.
Nice. Well, brother, I appreciate you.
Definitely, man.
Appreciate you doing this. As always, I'm happy for you, man. I'm glad to see that you're living your dream. You know, you're raising these young men to be an asset to the community, and I just appreciate you.
Oh, sure, car 40 acres and a mule, a piano, a guitar, anything. See, my name is Lucy, I'm your dog. Motherfucker, you can live at the mall. I can see the evil, I can tell it. I know it's illegal, I don't think about it.